This video really went viral. My Wolfdog River caught a wild rabbit. Now, most dog owners watching expected me to simply walk over and take it from him. But that's not what happened. Instead, I had to negotiate.
I had to offer him something of equal value and make a trade. To many people, that seems strange. After all, don't dogs learn to just drop it? Can't you simply train them to give it up? Well, today we're going to talk about something that separates many wolf dogs from most domestic dogs: possessiveness. And more importantly, why so many people underestimate the power of instinct.
What people saw was a wolf dog refusing to surrender a valuable resource. What I saw was a perfectly normal wolf dog behaving exactly as nature designed him to behave. River wasn't being naughty, he wasn't being stubborn, and he certainly wasn't trying to dominate me. He simply possessed something of extremely high value: food. And in the wild, giving up food can mean the difference between survival and starvation. That instinct runs deep, far deeper than many people realise.
This is River. River is 50% wolf dog. That means almost half of his genetic makeup comes directly from wolves. Not wolves from thousands of years ago, not some distant ancestor hidden in the past. Recent wolves, modern wolves, animals that still survive through instinct, and that matters. Because whilst domestic dogs have spent thousands of years evolving alongside humans, wolf dogs exist much closer to the original blueprint. Many of the instincts that have been softened in dogs remain powerful and very much alive in wolf dogs.
For thousands of years, humans selected dogs that were easier to live with, dogs that shared resources, dogs that looked to humans for guidance, dogs that tolerated handling, dogs that worked cooperatively with people. Generation after generation, those traits became stronger. But when recent wolf DNA is reintroduced into that equation, something changes. You begin moving back towards instinct, back towards independence, back towards self-preservation, and back towards behaviours that many pet owners find challenging.
One of the biggest misconceptions I hear is, can't you just train it out of them? The answer is usually no. You can manage behaviour, you can build trust, you can teach exchanges, you can improve communication. But instinct isn't something you simply erase. The higher the wolf content, the stronger those instincts often become. Not in every individual, but as a general rule. Possessiveness, prey drive, independence, suspicion of strangers, problem solving. These are all traits that can become far more pronounced in wolf dogs than in many domestic dog breeds. One of the most effective ways to deal with possessiveness is through trading. If a dog has a low-value item, such as a toy, it's often quite easy. You simply offer something better. That might be a favourite toy, a ball, or perhaps a dried dog treat. The idea is to make giving up the item worthwhile. And when a dog possesses something more valuable, the trade has to become more valuable too.
For example, if your dog has stolen food from the kitchen, a standard biscuit may not be enough to tempt them away from it. Instead, you need to think about what your dog considers an even bigger reward. Personally, I often use chicken or cheese because they're much higher value treats and can be far more appealing than whatever they've found. Now, when River caught the rabbit, we were dealing with something completely different. For a wolf dog, a freshly caught rabbit is about as valuable as it gets. This wasn't a toy, it wasn't a stolen sandwich, it wasn't a piece of chicken. This was prey, the ultimate prize. And that makes it incredibly difficult to find something that can outdo it. Fortunately, I had something in my cupboard that River absolutely loves: a large bone filled with rich marrow. The smell alone is enough to get his attention. And amazingly, that bone was valuable enough to make him forget all about the rabbit and agree to the trade.
Now, some people asked why I took the rabbit away at all. Why not just let him eat it? Well, there were several reasons. Firstly, I have multiple dogs. A rabbit is an extremely valuable resource, and there was a real possibility that the other dogs would have wanted it too, potentially leading to a conflict or a pack fight. Secondly, whenever a dog catches a wild animal, you can never be completely sure what you're dealing with. The rabbit could have been carrying disease, it could have been poisoned, or it may have been exposed to chemicals or toxins. In fact, this particular rabbit was already sick and dying when River caught it. It wasn't a healthy animal. So whilst catching prey is completely natural behaviour for a wolf dog, in this situation I felt the safest option was to remove the rabbit and to replace it with something equally valuable. For me, the priority wasn't the rabbit, it was protecting River. And this is where many people get wolf dogs wrong. If your attitude is, oh, I'll just train the wolf out of it, then a wolf dog is probably not the right animal for you, because you're starting from the wrong place. The goal isn't to remove the wolf. The goal is to understand it, to respect it and work with it. A wolf dog owner needs to appreciate the instincts that come with wolf content rather than pretending they don't exist, because those instincts will always be there. You may shape them, you may manage them, but you don't simply erase thousands of generations of natural behaviour.
And that's important to remember. Possessiveness isn't automatically aggression. Prey drive isn't automatically danger. Independence isn't disobedience. These are natural traits. Traits that helped wolves survive long before humans ever built cities. The challenge isn't changing the animal. The challenge is understanding the animal.
River isn't a bad wolf dog just because he wanted to keep his rabbit. He's a very typical wolf dog, and we've built a relationship strong enough to work through these instincts. And that's the reality of living with wolf dogs. They aren't dogs wearing wolf costumes, and they aren't wolves trapped in dogs' bodies. There's something in between. A unique blend of instinct, intelligence and independence. And if you truly want to live successfully with a wolf dog, the first thing you need to understand is this. You don't fight nature, you learn to respect it. Because when you understand the wolf inside the wolf dog, everything else starts to make sense. And if you enjoyed this episode, then please give us a big like and subscribe to the channel by clicking the button in the bottom hand corner, and tune in every week where I'll be bringing you more amazing episodes on dogs, wolves, animal rescue and conservation. Bye for now.